Hey, it's Jason. Welcome back to the Habitat Oasis project. We're out here today to talk about edge feathering, and I'm going to talk about three things. I'm going to talk about what it is, I'm going to talk about the benefits that it provides, and I'm going to talk about how we selected the trees that we chose to use in our project. Okay, so let's start off talking about, what is edge feathering? Edge feathering is something that was introduced to us about 2.5 to 3 years ago by a forester from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. We invited him to come out and look at the property and give us some advice. And basically what edge feathering is, if you think about a farmer's property or how people maintain their property, they maintain a nice clean edge where the field meets the woods. And in the case of our property, we had mowed a nice path right down along the edge of the woods so that we could get around the edge of the field, nice straight path. What the forester said is, let's take that nice clean edge and make it a jagged edge down through there, or a feathered edge. And basically what that does is deer don't like to step out of cover into a wide open space. So some of the benefits that go with edge feathering, first of all, we talked about the security. So we're creating that edge for the deer that gives them some security. They like, they're an edge animal, they like to feed along the edge. So by dropping this, you get things that grow up within the tree branches, and they'll stick their head in and out of there and then nibble on stuff. When you first drop the tree, there's a lot of buds on the tree, so they'll browse the tree. Not long after we started dropping trees, you could come in and see where the deer had browsed through. It creates cover. You can see how thick this is. This is good cover for ground nesting birds. Turkeys can get in here and they can nest in the treetop. Songbirds, they will come in, they will nest in it, they will land in it. Their droppings will spread seed into it, so we'll see, some that have been around longer, we'll see where we've got blackberries and black raspberries that are growing up through it. So it starts to thicken up. It creates real nice ground level habitat. Additionally, on the stump end of it, again, we're clean cutting the stumps, so the tree will not continue to grow like you would see with a hinge cut. We cut them clean, and what you then see is they start to develop suckers on the other end. So you've got real tender shoots that grow up. And we'll give you an update on this maybe later in the summer when stuff's really growing well. But shortly after we did this the last time in the growing season, you could go in there and see all the suckers growing up and where the deer had nibbled off those stumps. Additional benefits: by dropping large trees from the edge, we're getting additional sunlight into the woods. So if you've got a woods that's really open, this gets sunlight in there. It allows younger trees. So maybe we remove an oak from the edge, or not oak, we remove a maple from the edge. Underneath that maple that's been shaded out is oak trees. So we give our oaks a chance to grow. It provides, small game escape cover. We've done a lot of it. It's a practice that is endorsed by forestry. If you're doing timber stand improvement, they will pick trees that make sense to improve your overall timber. But for us, what we've seen is the areas where we're doing it, the deer are in and out of it. We've got some great video of some nice bucks that are feeding in our clover field, but are hanging out in and out of those feathered trees. Okay, so now that you understand the benefits and you start asking, how do I get started? How did we get started? You get into tree selection. I mentioned that we had the forester from Ohio Department of Natural Resources come out and help us. He went through and painted trees for us and helped us select the right trees. He used a number of criteria. He was looking at trees that were just naturally low value timber trees. So maybe it was by species that they were never going to be worth much. He also looked at trees that might be traditionally considered high value, but the condition of the tree was such that it was never going to be valuable for timber. So you might have an oak that in your head you think oak is always valuable, but maybe it has forks and twists to it and things that it's just never going to produce the timber value that you want. There were situations where we had trees crowding each other. So we had high quality trees that were too close together, which meant none of those trees would meet their potential. So by removing a couple of them, the one you leave behind is going to meet its potential. So he went through, he marked a number of trees. We've got some aspen on the property, which is low value in our area. So we had a number of those that we dropped. We had some wild cherry, we had maple. One of the issues in Ohio is that maples are overtaking our woods. So you get these large maple trees that shade out everything under them, By removing that, you give oaks and other more valuable trees the sunlight they need to be able to grow. So how to get started is really go down through, evaluate the area that you want to feather, and look for trees that are low value that you can remove and drop into the fields. All right, so this tree that you see behind me is a couple years old and it's been on the ground. So we're starting to see the benefits of this one. But what we're going to do now, I mentioned earlier birds depositing seeds, songbirds landing in these, depositing seeds. What I want to do now is take you to another spot on the property. We've got a edge that's been feathered for about 3.5 years, and you'll see the benefits that we're realizing there. All right, I wanted to give you a good example of an edge feather that's been in place for a couple years. We're over in the Lone Pine, which is a field that Josh hunts quite a bit. This edge is, he had some select cut timbering done about 3 years ago, and there were some white oaks here that they took a tree and left the treetop laying out in the field. The result has been, over the last 3 years, this has become, you can see how thick it is. This is primarily blackberry bushes, but it's just thick as can be. We've got dogwood growing up, we've got some poplars that are starting to grow up through it. Nice thick cover. It creates a nice jagged edge here for the deer, something for them to browse on. There's cover here for rabbits. Further down the hill to my left, there's another tree that they left out into the field. It's full of black raspberry. So in both of these areas, you can see where we provided some cover. Songbirds come in, they feed on berries elsewhere. They come, they land in these treetops, drop seed in here, and we've got a nice thick edge here that's very beneficial to wildlife. Thanks for watching. I hope you found value in this video. I'd encourage you, if you're interested in habitat management, check out our Habitat Oasis Project playlist. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.